a lot has been happening as far as the US elections are concerned. American politics, a lot of, this a report that I was going through, it was very interesting because a lot of major publications talk about American politics that were more stable for the past half century that they have been for most of the country's history. But they talk about two events yesterday in both Washington and Milwaukee, aiming among both Democrats and Republicans, and they say it shows how unstable US politics has become. Has US politics really become that unstable? To discuss that and more, the different aspects of Democrats and Republicans, what is going to happen as far as US politics is concerned, what are the predictions. We've been joined by Dr. Mark Meirowitz, he's a political analyst, joins us from the United States, and Syed Muhammad Ali, he's a lecturer from the Johns Hopkins University. Dr. Syed Muhammad Ali, thank you very much to the both of you to have joined us. I will begin with Mark. Mark, very, very interesting, details that are coming in all the major publications, Washington Post, New York Times, and whatnot, and all the different agencies are talking about two things and two things only. A, the Republican convention of Donald Trump, and B, whether Joe Biden will step down or not. I'll begin with Biden. This is a $1 million question. Is he going to eventually step down or not?
I don't go to Las Vegas and take bets, but I think right now it's really unclear. The Democrats are trying to figure out what their game plan is. One of them, actually interesting, comes from Alan Lichtman, who is, I think, one of your interesting choices for political analysis on these programs. He says that he is very, very angry, aggravated with the Democrats in the way they've abandoned Biden, but he plans a plan B. He says that at this point, Biden should resign, Harris should become president, and the party should endorse her for the candidacy. He believes that at this point in time, Biden will lose the election. And this is what the Democrats are telling Biden, but Biden keeps saying he's going to run. So it's confusing.
It is definitely confusing, Mark, and that is what we want to understand from you as well. Going to Dr. Syed Muhammad Ali. Ali, if Joe Biden does quit the race, will the party quickly support Vice President Kamala Harris as a nominee, or do you feel that the situation will be more typical of historical conventions when the nominee is unclear, with a messy competitive process in which multiple candidates make their cases to the delegates? What's your take?
Well, these are the two options, right? As I think the Wall Street Journal put it, it's either a coronation or a contest. So the coronation situation is where Biden, names Kamala Harris as his successor. He steps down. Everyone throws, the Democratic Party throws their weight behind her. She has over time, started portraying herself as being more progressive because there were issues with her being the Attorney General and, issues around incarceration and race. But nonetheless, in the recent past, her positions have been comparatively more empathetic to the situation in Gaza. So, a lot of people are saying that, and, it just makes sense to hand over the mantle to her because with Michelle Obama, that name is floating around, but she has not expressed any particular desire, to come into the race. And then the other one is a contest, and there are good points to be made. There's a good case there for actually allowing a contest, for actually allowing, various sort of contenders, Newsom and others, everyone coming to the fore and basically having it out and letting then people decide, have those press conferences and have, stuff that Biden himself did not do. Otherwise, we might have seen him fumble earlier. Right, and the Democratic Party might have had much more time before the DNC, which is the cutoff. So there are these, these two possibilities are still out there.
All right, Mark, is there any chance of some kind of polling amongst the Democrats as far as Joe Biden is concerned? Mark, do you feel that there could be some kind, because there are a lot of inner voices that are speaking, although not that openly, despite the fact that we hear of Senator John Tester, who also has become the 21st congressional Democrat and the second senator to publicly call on Biden to step down. We're hearing of former President Obama also indirectly talking about it, and others. But what is your in your point of view, could happen before the actual official designation or nomination of Biden happens? Do you feel there could be some kind of internal polling or some other mechanism that could ascertain whether Biden remains or not?
Look, right now, Trump assassination attempt, Trump won the election. So the Democrats have a real problem. Now, about the blitz primary that you're talking about, where you actually throw it out, I hate to quote Lichtman again, but Lichtman's view is if you do that, you lose. Cannot win the election with a blitz primary. I agree with him 100%. There are a lot of names out there. But November is coming around the corner here. You can't introduce a new candidate for president, and then who's going to run for vice president? And you're going to actually put Harris out of the picture. She's a woman, African American. She's been vice president. The Democrats are in a bad way. Biden now is ill. He has COVID. He said if there's a medical condition, he would step down. Trump was almost killed at a rally. I mean, American politics, to put it mildly, unstable, is in a complete maelstrom. So the answer here is there is some sort of answer. Democrats are trying to figure it out. The one point I think that's important, again, to quote Lichtman, he says he's very disappointed in the Democrats because he said that Biden stood up at the NATO conference, NATO summit, and he spoke for over an hour. He's an older man, that's true, but he feels that they've kind of put him under the bus. But the truth is, American politics as of last Saturday is a complete upheaval. It's a complete new story. It's a complete tabula rasa, a complete new page. So how we fill this page up is really totally unclear. We haven't seen something like this in the past. So we've got a big challenge to get the ship righted on the waters.
All right, let's move to Trump, and I'll revert to Ali. Ali, yesterday Donald Trump accepted the nomination, officially the nomination from the Republican Party to be the presidential candidate from their end. 5 days after he's nearly killed by a gunman, 2 months after he's convicted of 34 felony counts in New York, 3.5 years after he attempts to overturn the last presidential election. He gave a resounding speech that lasted for more than 90 minutes, that started on a very solemn note or on a mellow note, but of course then gradually shifted to the typical way that Trump talks about. He has demonstrated how he transformed the party over the last decade into a populist sounding anti-war, immigration skeptical movement. He also talks about his attempt on his life. He calls for unity, pledges for to be president for all of America, not half America. That is great. Then he reverts to divisions and attacking rivals, accuses Democrats of destroying our country, compared immigrants to Hannibal Lecter, praised autocratic leaders and called Nancy Pelosi crazy. He also falsely claimed that Democrats used COVID to cheat in the 2020 election. These are just some of the important highlights. What were, in your point of view, the main highlights of the 90 minutes plus speech of Donald Trump? What impact did it have on the audience and on the American public in large?
Well, he did try to milk it for all he could, first saying how perturbed he was and he wasn't going to talk about it again, and then he went on and on of how the bullet sort of pierced his ear and there was blood everywhere, and he's learned how much profusely one can experience bleeding when it comes to the ear. So he was giving a lesson in biology, and his fan base was enthralled. And, he spent a good 15 minutes talking about this stuff, right? And how he lifted his fist in the air, and he did have that, that presence. That presence also came through when he had turned around, to President Biden during the debate and said, I didn't understand what he said. I don't think he understood what he said. So his one-liners can be great. But his alternative facts, I mean, really, like, I mean, he again and again, the sort of the, fact checkers tell a very different story, but he keeps reinforcing these narratives, these false narratives, which now, for his audience, have become, they have become facts, that the elections were stolen. He's turned, I mean, he still speaks of COVID as the corona, or as the China virus, highly racist language, right? And the spike in crime by the migrants. So the xenophobia, I mean, of course, these are all sort of key elements in his toolkit, the toolkit of populist leaders, be it Orban in Hungary, people like himself, and Bolsonaro in Brazil. And, we saw this lack of coherence, this kind of no sort of grace, really. I mean, it was very much sort of,
But Ali, all said and done, despite his narratives, he's extremely popular. His every word is lapped by those who follow him and by a lot of the Americans. What is the charisma? Do you feel this charisma is going to work in the 2024 elections?
Well, I mean, charisma does work, right? And it's the spin. I mean, we see fan bases, around politicians within Pakistan as well. And, it's how he puts a spin. So, I mean, look at President Biden. I mean, the Democrats also, since Bill Clinton, have moved to the center, right? And Biden now was coming out and touting himself to be the most pro-union president in history, right? He had walked out with the United Auto Workers, sort of, participated in their strike. Trump came and he said he wants to fire the head of the United Auto Workers. But at the same time, he wants to woo the disgruntled labor unions, right? So he's been kind of leaning in on this idea that basically, he is the champion of the working class, right? And they will be protected by his protectionist schemes, by his anti-immigrant sort of rhetoric, and his attempt to, block the illegal aliens coming into the country. So he uses this divisive tactic, right? So not that blue collar workers around the world are being exploited by capital, by corporations. No, but it's like, your blue collar workers are being exploited by the blue collar, the cheap Chinese labor, the cheap Bangladeshi garment worker is stealing your jobs. It's their fault. Right, so it's this kind of divisiveness, but he speaks now. He said he represents the African American community.
Of many Americans, I mean, it might be something that is alarming for us, but for many Americans, it is exactly what they believe in. Mark, when it comes to Donald Trump, his grip on the Republican Party, as many analysts say, it has become much tighter than before. He is much stronger, in a much stronger position than his 2017 to 2021 term to follow through on his agenda if he wins the elections. How strong could a president could Trump be if he wins? B, if he wins the White House and Republicans win majorities in both chambers of the Congress, will he face any obstacle in the pursuit of major policy changes? And C, will he become the populist leader that he is aiming to be, or he has already become?
Well, I'm an American, so let me tell you what I'm thinking about this. First of all, the 92 minutes were riveting. The section that he talked about, the attempted assassination, was gripping. It reached the hearts not only of Republicans, but of Democrats in the entire country. 100 senators had a conference call with the Secret Service. 100 senators. Next point. On all the court cases, the Florida case was dismissed. The 34 felony counts is on appeal. The Supreme Court issued a decision on immunity, whether you like it or not, but that's going to affect all the cases, including Hunter Biden's case. We didn't mention Vance, which I think is an important aspect of your question, because Trump is also laying the groundwork for 2028 to have a certain vision. And I do want to say something important about who is the base of Trump. The Democrats have missed the boat, and that's why they're going to lose this election, because they don't understand who supports Trump. If you looked at the people in the audience, did they look like deplorables to you? This is what Clinton described supporters of Trump as deplorables. They are not deplorables. They are Americans who are faced with higher prices. They are faced with gas prices, but Biden suggestion electric vehicles and not using energy resources of the United States. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's a perception element. I'm sure my distinguished colleague will agree with me. Perception is important in politics. And the perception is that people are having a hard time and that Biden's the cause of it. About populism and all of that, well, that's the Trump-Vance element of this. But if you looked at the Republican Party, it was an extraordinary story, but adding on the assassination attempt to this is a game changer. That aspect of it was never predicted. We couldn't predict it, but now that it's here, it's changed everything. So about American politics going forward, you ask in terms of the houses being under control. In fact, the Democrats are in fear now, since they've lost the election in 24, that they're going to lose both houses. But the truth is, the way our system is set up, it's not always true that if one party controls all the House, the Senate, and the presidency, it doesn't mean they always can get everything done that they want to get done. So there will have to be a lot of negotiation. I think that what you have here right now is a inflection point in American history and American politics. How does it play out? I don't know. But I, again, go back to the fact that the part of the certainly what he was saying about his assassination attempt, it looked very sincere. It seemed that Trump had been very changed by these events, but it is true that he, went back to his talking points, and that is exactly what the Republican Party is all about. Now, the Democrats have to come up with a better solution, but they haven't. They haven't come up with a good solution, and Americans are in despair. What is supposed to do? And the choice is maybe Biden, maybe not, Trump. So right now I have a lot of question marks.
All right. But of course, we are just a couple of months away from the elections, and in September is the next face-to-face between the two presidential nominees. If Biden does stay by then, or if he does not, whosoever is going to be. But this last question is to the both of you. Starting with Ali. Ali, what are the general predictions, whether it be through the different polls that have emanated since the attempt on Donald Trump, whether it be since the Republican convention, or whether it be since the uncertainty within the Democrats? What are the general predictions? Because there's a non-partisan Cook political report. There are others that are talking about different things. There are different polls that have come out. But what is the general American public? What is this basic sentiment? I'll ask from the both of you, beginning with you, Ali.
Well, it's still up in the air. I mean, there's a growing number of Democrats who, think that President Biden needs to, hand over the mantle to someone else. I mean, the fundamentals still remain strong for the Democrats. I mean, the GDP is growing, unemployment is low, the inflation, the government's still trying to control the inflation. There isn't like a major war after the Afghan withdrawal. So, all that stuff is there, but, it's President Biden's now really ability. And I think that, yes, I think the Democrats really, like the DNC, did not do itself any favors when it sidelined Bernie Sanders. Because, I mean, it was after Jimmy Carter.
Short, Ali. I'll have to cut you short, Ali. Mark, last comment, short answer. The same question.
Bernie Sanders is a road to nowhere. Bernie Sanders would ruin this country. I think we're going to have an election in a short amount of time. And by the way, who put Bernie Sanders under the bus? Hillary Clinton. So just again, Democrat internecine warfare. He's a great man. He's a great guy. But as president, I would be fearful. End of the day, it's all up in the air right now. The polls are unclear, uncertain. The decision is in the hands of the Dems. Democrats got to decide what they're going to do. And they better decide fast, because they've already lost the election.
Thank you very much to both of my guests, Dr. Syed Muhammad Ali, lecturer, Johns Hopkins University, Dr. Mark Meirowitz, political analyst, joining us from the US. Thank you very much to the both of you for your opinions as far as the US presidential race and elections and the politics in the country is concerned. Thank you, guys.